No boat could reach him. The sea had swallowed the jetty, and then came the scratching at the window. It started faint beneath the howl of the wind, then sharpened into something intentional. Charles pressed his palm to the cold glass and squinted into the dark, and there, huddled on the lee-side sill, was a wild bobcat, her amber eyes catching the lamp's glow. For a dozen heartbeats, neither moved. The storm held its breath.
Don't open the window. Not yet. She's wild.
He stepped back and left her to the storm's mercy. But he did not draw the curtain. All night the tempest raged, and she did not abandon the sill. By dawn, the wind had gentled, and she was still there, curled tight but alive. Charles studied her through the glass, and an unspoken agreement passed between them. She could stay. The storm passed. By noon, the sill was empty, the bobcat gone as if she had never been.
Where did she go? The rocks are treacherous. What if she's hurt?
Days of flat calm followed. He scanned the rocks every morning, but there was only sea and stone. Then the barometer dropped, and the first dark cloud swallowed the horizon. A new storm was coming.
Will she remember this sill? Or was it only shelter from the rain?
As the gale shrieked and the rain lashed, a familiar shape sprang onto the ledge. She was back.
She came back. She actually came back.
He rested his open palm against the cold glass. On the other side, she pressed her wet nose an inch from his hand. He did not open the window. She did not try to push it. They merely watched the storm together. That night, something settled in Charles's chest. She would come with the storms, and he would be waiting. Later, by lamplight, Charles opened his leather-bound journal. His pen hesitated, then moved. The 3rd of December. Second storm. She came again. Amber eyes, soaked coat. She did not try the glass, just watched, stayed till dawn.
She comes through the worst weather. Maybe she needs more than just the sill.
The next storm, he unlatched the window and placed a strip of dried fish on the outer ledge. She sprang up, water flying, and froze, nose working. The fish lay within reach.
Go on. It's for you.
She ate it in 2 quick gulps, then settled against the glass, ears swiveling. Through the night, her amber eyes stayed open, fixed on Charles as he read by the lamp. At first light, she rose, stretched, and dropped away into the wet rocks below. From that night on, the routine held. Storm came, she came, he fed her, and they kept the dark at bay together. On the winter solstice, a gale struck that made the tower feel like a shipwreck. Waves climbed the rocks and wind screamed through every crack. Inside the lamp room, Charles gripped the iron railing as the whole structure shuddered, the lens rotating relentlessly.
She'll never hold the sill in this. The wind will peel her off the stone.
He descended to his quarters and saw her through the glass, flattened against the pane, fur ripped backward by the gusts.
I could open it. Just a crack, just for tonight. She'd be safe.
His fingers touched the cold brass latch, but he did not turn it.
She's wild. If I make her less wild, she might stop coming, or I might lose what this is.
He withdrew his hand and watched her fight the storm. Her claws hooked into the stone, her body a testament to endurance. Dawn broke in tatters. Charles stepped onto the gallery, scanning the rocks with a dread he hadn't felt in years. The sill was empty. Then a soaked shape emerged from under the eave, leapt to the sill, and met his gaze. She had weathered it. They both had. The weeks after the solstice brought deeper cold. A cough settled in Charles's chest that no tea could shift. Yet the bobcat never missed a storm. Each gale found her on the sill, fur rimmed with frost.
She doesn't just come for the fish anymore. I don't know what she wants.
One night, as she shook sleet from her whiskers, Charles spoke aloud for the first time.
You are a stubborn thing. You know that? The whole world's howling, and here you are.
The bobcat's tufted ears swiveled toward his voice, but her gaze stayed steady on his face.
She can't hear words through the glass, but maybe she hears that I am not a threat. Maybe that's enough.
His joints screamed when he climbed the tower stairs. Each morning he moved slower, but the light must turn. One bitter night, he sat in the armchair waiting, and exhaustion pulled him into a shallow sleep. When he woke hours later, the bobcat was curled on the sill, eyes open, as if keeping watch over him. One crisp morning, a supply tender braved the calm sea and left a crate at the jetty. A sealed envelope lay on top. Attention Keeper McLeod. Effective the 21st of March, a relief keeper will assume spring duty. Prepare for turnover.
A relief keeper. That means footsteps. Voices. Someone else inside the tower. She won't understand. She trusts the silence. If there's a stranger, she might never return.
He folded the letter and tucked it into his journal, unwilling to voice the fear already eating at him. That night, as snow began, the bobcat sprang to the sill, and he watched her with a new, silent desperation.
Every storm left is a gift now. I need to remember every single one.
He began recording her visits with obsessive detail, as if capturing her on paper could stop the season. January 4th, January 11th, January 18th. The list grew, each date a step closer to spring. During the calm days, he stared at the empty sill, already missing her before she was even gone. When a storm brewed on the 1st of February, Charles laid out the fish and settled in his chair. The hours passed. The sill stayed bare.
She's never been late. Not once. The wind is shrieking. Where could she be?
The brass clock on the wall ticked past midnight, then 1, then 2. He rose and paced, coughing into his fist.
Maybe the storm isn't strong enough. Or maybe she's hurt. Trapped on the rocks. I should go out.
He pressed his forehead to the cold glass and stared into the churning dark, fighting images of broken fur and blood. Dawn came gray and silent. No bobcat. For the first time, the emptiness felt like a physical wound. All that day he picked at his food, his eyes returning to the pain, the cough rattling deeper with each unanswered hour. Then, with the next nightfall, another squall hit the island, and in its teeth, a familiar shadow vaulted onto the ledge.
You came back. I was so afraid you were gone for good. Please don't do that again.
Even as relief washed through him, a crack had opened. She had missed a night. She could disappear, and he would never know why. A fortnight later, the wind swung south. Snow melted in a single night, and the rocks steamed in the sudden sun.
This warmth must feel like spring to her. She'll be hunting far inland. She might not remember the sill.
He searched the rocks every morning and evening, but the only movement was gulls quarreling over tide pools. The sill stayed bare through 3 mild nights. The dried fish he left turned gray and untouched.
I should put it in the journal. Face the truth. She's not coming back.
He wrote slowly. Each word a stone dropped into a well. The pen scratched, then stopped. The 14th of February. No storm, no bobcat. The thaw may have driven her inland for good. I will not see her again.
Maybe it's better this way. A clean break before spring forces one.
But the silence was heavier than any storm, and the cough that had eased returned with a rattling edge. He did not open the journal again for 3 days. On the 4th evening, the wind snapped back to the north. Frost seized the windows, and the barometer plunged.
If she's still out there, she'll come. If not, no, she'll come.
As sleet began to sting his window, a compact body launched onto the ledge. She was back, coat already white with ice.
You came back. Not just to any shelter. To this sill, you chose this.
He watched her settle, shaking sleet from her ears, and a thought formed with the clarity of ice.
She's not just sheltering. She's drawn here, has been since that first night.
He pulled his chair close to the glass and turned the lamp low. Neither moved for hours.
We're both keepers, in a way. We guard the same light.
He pressed his palm flat to the pane. Outside, she brought her paw up and held it there, separated by cold glass. For the first time all winter, Charles felt no fear of spring. She would return. He was certain of it. The cough that had rattled for weeks became a scorching fever. By noon, Charles could not rise from his chair.
The light. I can't let it go dark. Not tonight.
As the storm gathered, he forced himself up the stairs, gripping the rail to keep from falling. He turned the lamp just before his legs gave out. He sagged into his armchair, shivering. When the Bobcat landed on the sill, Charles's eyes were closed, his breath shallow. Through the fever haze, he saw her there, pressed to the glass like a sentinel, unmoving.
She's staying. She's watching over me.
All night. Each time he surfaced from the fire, her golden eyes were on him, steady as the lamp beam. By first light, the fever loosened enough for him to lift his head. She was still on the sill, frost on her whiskers.
You kept me tethered. I owe you another dawn.
A blizzard unlike any he had known struck that night, ice welding the Bobcat's fur to the stone. In the lamp room, Charles clung to the rail, the tower groaning as if it might snap.
If she leaves the sill in this, the wind will hurl her into the sea.
He leaned closer to the glass and saw her still there, eyes slitted against the ice, body braced.
Don't you give up. I am still turning the light. You watch my back, I'll watch yours.
He forced his voice through the chill, talking nonsense, anything to keep them both tethered.
If I fall asleep, she's alone out there. If she falls, I'll have nothing left.
Hours bled together. The lamp turned. The Bobcat endured, and Charles did not let go. When the first gray light touched the snow, he dragged himself to the gallery and found her below, shaking ice from her coat. Through his binoculars, she looked straight up at him and shook the last of the storm from her ears. They had survived together. By afternoon, Charles was patching shattered shutters, his hands shaking, but his mind sharp with a new clarity. Every few minutes he stopped, lifted his binoculars, and checked on the Bobcat down on the rocks.
I thought she was the one needing shelter, but she kept me going. I owe her more than dried fish and a warm lamp. I need to make sure this place is here for her next winter.
That evening, by lamplight, he opened his journal again for the first time since the false thaw, the 20th of February. We survived the blizzard. She stayed on the sill all night, ice and all. I think she saved me.
But it's more than that. She trusts this place, and I am the keeper of that trust now.
He looked out at the dark rocks where she hunted, and the solitude no longer felt hollow. It felt shared. He closed the journal and placed his hand on the lamp, feeling its warmth, a silent promise forming. Whatever came next, whatever spring brought, he would not let the light go out. Not for her. Not ever again. In the lull after the blizzard, Charles found a piece of driftwood and took out his old knife. By the time he finished, a small bobcat stood on his palm, its ears sharp, stance poised. He placed the carving on the inner sill, facing outward toward the endless sea. That night, she came again, leaping onto the sill as the first stars appeared. She shook the frost from her coat, then froze, her gaze catching on the small wooden figure.
She can see it. A shape like her. I think she knows.
She pressed her nose to the cold glass, right where the carving stood on the other side. A warmth spread through his chest that no fever had ever brought. They stood like that, separated by the pain, but joined by a shared language of gestures. From that night, the carving remained on the sill, a silent witness to every storm they weathered together. On the 20th of March, a smudge of smoke appeared on the horizon. The relief keeper was coming.
5 days now. No storm, no bobcat. She must sense the change.
He pulled his worn duffel from under the bed and began filling it with the scraps of his winter life.
She won't see me, but she'll see this.
He traced the small ears with a fingertip, then left it exactly where it was. The spiral steps echoed under his boots for the last time this season. The boatman said nothing, just took his bag and offered a steady hand. He stood at the stern and watched the tower grow smaller, his hand gripping the rail. He strained to spot the sill, but the distance had already stolen it from him. When the lighthouse was just a black sliver on the sea, he finally turned away and faced the mainland. Back in the mainland cottage, the silence was heavier than any storm. Charles lay awake, listening for the scratch that never came. He whittled another small bobcat from a cedar branch, smaller than the first, to keep in his pocket. One evening, he wrote a note to the authority, his pen pressing hard. Effective this autumn, I will keep the lamp burning every night, regardless of the shipping schedule. This is my responsibility.
It's not for the ships, it's for her. She'll see it and know.
All summer he repaired his health, but each sunset he pictured the dark tower, and his heart tightened. When the first autumn leaf fell, he was already packed, his duffel filled with dried fish and a second carving. He boarded the first supply boat of the season. Before dawn, the wooden bobcat warm in his pocket, the lighthouse rose out of the sea mist like a promise kept.
Oh, I am coming back, and the light will be on.
He stepped onto the jetty under a gray sky, the wooden bobcat pressing against his palm inside his coat. The lamp room was cold and silent. He laid his hand on the dark lens. At dusk, he threw the switch. The beam ignited and swept out into the empty sea. By nightfall, the wind rose. The barometer fell steeply, and the first storm of the season began to claw at the windows. He stood at the glass, staring into the churning dark, his breath fogging the pane.
I've done my part, now it's yours.
The storm thickened, rain turning to icy sleet that rattled like shot against the window. Outside, the lighthouse stood firm, the lamp blazing, but the sill was a black hollow he couldn't see. He pulled his chair to the glass and waited, the storm howling against the panes, his eyes never leaving the dark.
If you are out there, you'll come.
The hours dragged. The brass clock ticked past midnight without a sound from the sill.
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe the light wasn't enough.
Then, in a flash of lightning, a sleek shape vaulted through the rain and landed on the ledge. She shook the water from her coat and pressed against the glass, amber eyes bright with recognition.
You came. You saw the light and you came.
She blinked once, slowly, then pressed her forehead to the pane right where his rested.
She remembers everything. The sill, the fish, the carving.
He reached for the dried fish on the sill, his hand trembling, and laid it near her paw. And as the storm raged on, they kept their silent watch, just as they always had.
This is real. She came back to the light, and I'll never let it go dark again.
The next storm arrived 3 nights later, and she was already on the sill before the first gust.
I spent the summer thinking you might forget, but you didn't.
He told her about the cottage, the harbor, the long, quiet afternoons. She blinked slowly, washing a paw, listening as if his voice were part of the wind.
She can't know what summer is, but she knows I came back. That's what matters.
By midwinter, he had stopped counting the storms. She was simply there, as certain as the sunrise. His journal entries grew shorter. No need for words when the proof was curled 6 inches away. The 8th of December. She came again. I left the fish. She ate. We watched the snow. The carving stood on the sill between them, a small sentinel that needed no explanation.
This is my winter now, not lonely, just watchful, together.
The seasons folded into one another, a blur of snow and thaw, and each autumn the bobcat returned as if the summer had been only a long pause. Charles's hair turned fully white, and deep lines etched his face, but his eyes held a peace that hadn't been there before. She was slower now, a dusting of gray around her muzzle, but her amber gaze still fixed on him through the glass. A young relief keeper once climbed the stairs and stopped at the lamp room door, staring at the bobcat on the sill.
She's been coming 15 winters now. The light is her beacon, and I am its keeper. Don't let it go dark.
The young man looked at the bobcat, snow dusting her back, and nodded without a word. In his journal, Charles wrote the same line year after year. She came, 2 words that held an entire world. Storms battered the tower, but the sill held, and so did she, as if the lighthouse itself had become her territory.
When I am gone, they must keep the light on. That's the only legacy that matters.
And so the winters stacked, each one a testament to a companionship that needed no touch, no word, just the steady sweep of a lamp and a wild heart on the sill. On a still winter night, the lamp turned low. Charles sat in his armchair, the open book forgotten on his knee. Outside, the bobcat lay curled on the sill, her flank rising and falling in the slow rhythm of sleep.
There is nowhere else I would rather be than right here, right now.
The lens rotated above, its beam sweeping the sea in a steady, watchful arc.
We've done this so many winters. It never grows old.
Snow fell without sound, blanketing the rocks and the tower in a hush that felt eternal. The carving stood on the sill, its tiny shadow cast by the lamplight. Charles let his head rest against the wing of the chair, his breath slowing to match hers. In that quiet, there was no past storm, no future spring, only the gift of the present, shared.
This is enough. This is everything.
Charles opened his eyes and turned toward the glass. He rose slowly, the ache in his joints a familiar companion, and crossed to the window. On the other side, the bobcat stirred, her amber eyes meeting his. He pressed his palm flat against the cold pane, the same mark he had made 100 times. She lifted her paw from the stone and set it on the glass, aligning with his, pad to palm. The two shapes overlapped in the reflection, a single silhouette of mottled glass and lamplight.
We never broke the glass, but we never needed to.
Beyond them, the beam turned, a steady heartbeat in the frozen night. And in that small, shared circle of warmth, the world settled into a peace that would hold until dawn. The light burned on. From the open sea, the lighthouse rose like a single candle in the vast darkness. Snow and sleet may fall, but the great beam turned on, steady and silent. The tower had faced every gale, every ice storm, and stood unshaken. And in the shelter of the eave, a wild bobcat lay curled on the stone sill. She had no reason to be there, except the glow of the lamp and the man who kept it. Inside, Charles sat by the glass, his eyes heavy, but his heart light. They had never touched, never spoken a word the other could understand. Yet they were not alone. The glass between them was not a wall, it was a promise. And so the light still burns, every winter night, over the dark water. For the wild heart on the sill, and the keeper who waits.